Obey your thirst. Is that Sprite? Do they still use that? I don't know. Obey your thirst. Very clever commercial. The problem is many of us do obey our thirst. Lent is a time to obey rather our deeper desires. The Israelites in the first story today were obeying their thirst. If we knew we were going to be this thirsty, why do we even come? We'd rather be back in Egypt as slaves. Talk about obeying your thirst. And I don't quite know what's going on with this husband's thing between Jesus and the Samaritan woman. Certainly, it seems like his way of saying, I know you. She seems to take it that way. But could it also be him pointing out, you've been following other thirsts. You've been searching for so long, and I've got something else for you. And so they have a conversation, and she gradually becomes aware of a deeper thirst. So it's that deeper thirst that we want to be more and more aware of during Lent. Because it's there, isn't it? That deeper thirst. Jesus says, I've got living water for you. You'll never thirst again, and you'll have eternal life. And I don't know if she's quite fully bought this at this point, but she's intrigued, and then he goes on, and then that's when he talks the thing about the husbands, and she says, I can see you're a prophet, which prompts, this is her segue into a question about worship. So now she's wanting to know, how do I find God really? Maybe this guy knows something. And he talks about worship in spirit and truth. That's the only way. Jesus is both maddening and enticing in the story, isn't he? Because he's all full of himself and of Judaism. And he says, well, we Jews know what we worship, you guys don't. But then he says, but all of that's really pointless if we don't worship in spirit and truth. And God's looking, he says, for people to worship him in spirit and truth. I think she must be pretty interested by now. And I think in some level, even if not consciously, she discovers, and we're called to rediscover, well, this living water that Jesus is talking about, it's Jesus himself. This living water is our relationship with God through Jesus. God become human, God become flesh, God right now here, present in our lives. This living water is God dwelling within us. This Jesus that we come to know, who's the living water, he knows us just like he knew that Samaritan woman. He knows us, and he knows our thirsts, our deeper thirsts. He knows the other thirsts too. He knows us, he loves us, and he pours out his love for us with his life. Pours out his life while we were still sinners, as St. Paul says. He poured out his life for us. That's how great his love is. Not because he was going to get anything from us. That's this great love that comes to us from God. It doesn't come to us so that God can get something from us. It's just a total gift, total grace. This water is in the recesses of our sometimes hard hearts, like that hard rock that God directed Moses to strike with his staff to have water spring up from this rock for those grumbling, mumbling, complaining Israelites. This water is in the deep recesses of the hardships in our lives. This water is ours for the taking, ours for the drinking. This living water welling up deep within us for fullness of life, even now, and the promise of eternal life. This Lent is a time for us, after all, to obey our thirst, that deepest thirst, to drink deeply and to share the living water